Alrighty guys, well as you can see I'm here with Garisson and we're right next to this highway here. I am using a bit of a different mic right now, so I apologize if it's a little bit more difficult to hear me than usual. Usually I've got that thing clipped on right here, but we're going to try this out for the sake of simplicity. Now obviously we're doing another firework display, all the fireworks being right over there, and there's still some in the pickup and more in the back that you can't really see right now. But right now Garisson is stepping off the positions so we know exactly how many feet in between each module. And so basically that end position is going to be somewhere out here. But mainly everybody's going to be watching over there. I know that it doesn't look like a lot of people right now, but come nightfall there is like a wedding reception over here. And so hopefully we get a big turnout. Now one of the things that Garisson did in his last show is he used a lot of Comets. And you know, they're like those single shot things, and then there's an igniter in the bottom, and he puts them in a rack, spreads them out however he wants. He can actually adjust the angle, and he can level it on the ground so he can get that perfect X or V shape, whatever he's trying to do up in the air. And today he's trying some new stuff out with Comets. As you can see, this time they are all in canister shell form. This stuff over here is actually part of a cake, but he turned it into fan slices, and as you can see, poke the igniter there right in the middle. And so as a fan slice, this is going to operate like that versus going from one side to the other. Now, all of these racks, Comets, and fan slices aside, this is a wedding show, and so we are going to be trying something different here. Now, this right here is a heart-shaped breaking cake. So we've got 9 shots of 2.5-inch shells here, and they break in the shape of a heart, which is something that's pretty rare. I don't know, have we ever done something like that before?
Not in a show, no.
Sometimes it's hit or miss with things like this where it breaks in like a circle or something symmetrical. For example, a smiley face shell does not always break like a perfect smiley face. It really depends on how the shell exits the tube and breaks up in the sky as to whether or not you see that effect. But we've got 9 chances tonight that we're going to get a heart shape up in the sky for this guy's wedding. So Garisson, you've got a lot of rebar right here, and what are you going to be using that for?
So I like to secure all my cakes with rebar. It's usually typically easier. So if you have enough rebar, you can just put 4 around each side of the cake. It'll never tip. Or even 1 piece of rebar and then just duct tape the cake to the rebar, and it'll never tip over.
Can you demonstrate real quick what that would look like?
Yeah. Say you want your cake there, just put it right here. Like I said, you can put 1 all the way around it. And even as that doesn't seem very sturdy, typically you use duct tape, but you could just, it's not going to tip over.
And actually I didn't show you the other fireworks. They're in the pickup here. I'll get you a quick shot of those while they are still packed away. A couple of them by SFX brand. And we got stuff like Loose Cannon, kind of a random one. Wind of Fireworks, Mother of All Bombs. That's one of my favorite MOABs actually. Beautiful willows on that thing. So yeah, we've got a bunch of 500-gram cakes mixed with fan slices, and we've got Comet racks and shells, and everything goes in what, like 3 minutes?
3 minutes, 36 seconds is when the finale fires. Everything in the show came from either Red Apple, Spirit of 76, or Superior Fireworks, except for these little noise guys. Did not come from either of those 3.
So Garisson, where do we get all this noisy stuff from? Do we know a guy who knows a guy, or?
Basically.
Okay.
I wouldn't say if I did know.
Well guys, I don't want Garisson to have to do all the work, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get this camera set up on a tripod, and we'll get you a time lapse of getting everything out to the positions. It looks like what, 5 positions in total? Okay. Did you mention how many feet apart they are already?
40.
40
Usually
feet.
I like doing them at 60 feet, but we don't have the space here. We'll be behind this building and be almost to the road over there. So we dropped it down to 40 feet.
And then those trees over there, we didn't want any of those angles with the Comets to kind of go either shoot through those trees or something worse.
Yep, and which meant we had to get closer to the event a little bit, which shortened up our distance.
Yep. And this is a surprise show, so we don't want them seeing what's going on.
Yeah, he doesn't have any idea this is happening. Actually, I shoot a show for this guy on the 3rd of July here in North Dakota, and he was my first big show I ever had. He's actually still my biggest show I have. And so it was his wedding, and I knew he wanted fireworks, and so I thought, well, why not surprise the guy and give him a show for his wedding?
Why not? It's what you do best.
Right?
All right, let's do this. Little behind the scenes here for you. This is how we time-lapse our setup. And as you can see, the hill is working to our advantage here. And I can get this tripod up on the hill, and we can see everything. There's Garisson doing a whole lot of nothing, slacking off. So we're here about midway through setup, and you're noticing that I'm wearing a mic. And that's because Garisson and I both have the exact same mic that hooks into the side of the phone. And we tried both of them, and both of them were distorting the audio so bad that it was just like you couldn't even hear what we were saying. So now I got to use this. The reason why I didn't want to use this is because when we're talking back and forth, you can't really hear me talking until I bring the mic closer, and vice versa. If Garisson wants to say something and this is clipped onto my shirt, I got to try to take it off fast, and it's just really hard to do. But we're going to have to do it this way because apparently this is the only mic that works. And the other one's a Rode mic too. I've never had issues with Rode until today. So anyway, guys, we are about halfway through setup, and the only place in the entire state of North Dakota where it's raining is right there. So do we have any plastic?
Yeah, I got a roll of plastic in the pickup. But it's like, come on. There was a 0% chance of rain the entire day today. And the only place, you can see it on the radar, there's no rain except for right there. That's just our luck.
Right there. And all of our fireworks are right here. And that is a little close for comfort.
A little bit.
It's pretty dark.
I better
over
not
there.
have to cover all these things.
I don't think we're gonna have to.
I hope not.
Let's pray to the rain gods that it doesn't rain again.
The guy that we're doing this for right now that's getting married is the guy that I shoot the 3rd of July show for. Every single year, within minutes after that show shoots, it's an absolute downpour. Even on dry years, doesn't matter. So anything with fireworks to do with this guy has always ended in rain every year.
He might be cursed.
One thing that I want to talk about is the fact, if you look here, these are all canister shell mines and Comets. And you just put the igniter down into the lift charge there, and you just drop it in. These came from Superior Fireworks. Now, if you don't have your 1.4 Pro license where you can buy specific Comets, typically those are a Pro item. You can purchase these as a regular consumer. They come with 4 tubes usually in the boxes when you buy them wholesale. And you knock the bottoms off, they fit right into the CraigCo racks. You can make your own rack, whatever. It's a great, cheap option to use other than the pro-use Comets and mines.
Now, let's talk about these CraigCo racks real quick because I don't think we really touched on this during our last show, but you see how they're kind of angled there. Now, Garisson, what can you do with that rack?
The awesome part about these is, if you see this right here, this is what tightens. You just loosen that, and you slide this in right here, and it tells you what angle that your Comet is set to. So you can set these to any angle at any point, and every single one of these can be individually adjusted. And it's really simple, easy. They're super light because they're aluminum. A little on the pricey side, but they are by far the best rack I have found for doing this.
Now, last time you used these racks, I noticed that you kind of leveled them on the ground, and if you had to, you would put a board underneath it to make it straight. Why do you do that?
So if you have, for an example, this set to 35 degrees, and it's on a flat surface, and the other one on the other side is set to 35 degrees. If this one's not level, it's going to be shooting at, let's say, 40 degrees. And you're not going to get the look in the sky that you want. So you have to level them in order to get that consistency in the Comets.
Which is what you're shooting for. You want that perfect consistency with the X's and the V's. So
yeah.
If you didn't level it, there's a good chance your V's not even going to turn out like you wanted it to.
For sure. And if you're going to go through the kind of effort to script this and line up the angles, you want to make sure that it comes out right.
So guys, we do a fair amount of firework displays, I would say. We pretty much are doing like at least 10 of them per summer. You're probably doing more.
Yeah.
So, and we post all these firework displays on YouTube, but then we post a video on some little small thing like a Pop-It, and it gets 2 million views.
It's ridiculous.
But a firework display like this, where we put in a lot of effort and we script the whole thing, and it's, how many cues are we using here?
There's 135 cues in 3 minutes and 36 seconds.
So 135 cues in 3 minutes. That's a lot of stuff going off at a time, and that's a lot of time behind the computer to figure out how it works.
Yeah.
It's a ton of work.
It's a lot of time filming all this and editing it all.
Oh yeah, even more so. We have a couple of cameras. You've even got some GoPros, and we somehow try to combine all that footage to get it together. The issue is, it doesn't seem like you guys are all that into these firework displays. We've noticed that in videos where we try far less with just some littler stuff, you guys really seem to like it. But when we do firework displays like this with all this crazy technical work with the Comets and all that, it doesn't seem like you guys are into it, and we'd really like to know what's going on. Is there something that we're not doing that you would like to see, or do you just not want to see it altogether? Just let us know in the comments.
Or would you like to see this same kind of content just filmed differently?
And if it is filmed differently, like if we're not doing this right to keep you guys interested, what should we do better? Do you guys want to see us physically put every single igniter into every single firework, build these shows from the ground up? What is it that you guys want to see? Because we're not sure.
Or do you want to see less setup time?
Yeah. So less setup, straight to the point firework display, we really don't know, and we've never actually asked you guys. We've kind of just been putting these videos out there. So,
winging it.
Yep. So the heart-shaped cake. Now, we do have this thing here, which is a fuse. What you could do is take a fuse cutter, cut it right here, stick your igniter in. You've got 9 shots of 2.5-inch heart-shaped breaks. However, we know all too well the pacing never works out on 500-gram cakes, this being no exception.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to break this down into single shots. So while you're designing the script, you're thinking about this cake as single shots. Can you kind of tell me how you incorporated single shots from a cake into this display?
I didn't want to fire them all at once or just let this thing go on its own. So
I'm a terrible YouTuber, okay? Leave me alone.
So we have this in our inventory, obviously, waiting for the right time to use it. Wedding, perfect time to use it, right?
Yep.
And so I knew I didn't want to just let the whole thing fire. I hate inconsistencies in cakes and stuff like that. And I thought it would be better used and more appreciated if you use it as single shots. So the beginning kind of has like an X in the sky with 1 breaking, and then a V with 1 breaking. We broke it down like that. It's used in the finale also. I wanted to really single it out so it was kind of a staple, hoping to get those breaks of a perfect heart for a wedding. And I figured the best way to do that was with singling them out of single shots. And then there's also a little 25-shot Salute King that's fast fuse on every position.
So a few things you'll need here when converting a 500-gram or 200-gram cake into single shot form is a box cutter, probably some Gorilla Tape if you do not have hot glue or you don't have hot glue out on site. You usually need something to plug that into when we're out in the field. We don't always have that option, so we're going to use some of the best, stickiest tape you can get on the market, and that is the black Gorilla Tape. And you're going to need a brass awl and some igniters. So the idea here is to take all 9 tubes out of the cake and separate them. And then each one of those tubes is going to get its own igniter. So on the script, we could actually shoot 3 or even 5 of these or all 9 at the exact same time if we wanted to. But with this being a wedding show, I think the plan is to spread these out over the duration of the show, maybe some in the opener and definitely some in the finale. But the first thing I'm doing here is just cutting into it because I kind of want to see how they put this thing together. So I'm noticing like right here, it looks like a weak part of the wall, and this would be a good place to cut with the box cutter all the way down. And then we can get inside of the cake and you'll see it looks like this. So this is what's underneath the white packaging. It actually looks pretty cool. And already I can tell this is going to be very easy to pull apart. And so basically what I'll be doing here is I'll see if I can just do it with strength alone and try to pull these out. We don't care if the fuse comes out because we're going to be poking our own holes here in the bottom and sticking an igniter in there, bypassing the fuse altogether. And as you can see, these come apart fairly easily. We don't have to do any major pulling or tearing, so the integrity of the firework is really staying intact here. And we don't have to worry about ruining anything. These are a little bit tougher. As you can see, the ones in the middle do have a bit of a stronger adhesive right here. So maybe when we get to the middle, we'll have to use it again, but maybe not. So far, they're all coming out pretty easy. These are the last 2 tubes. And that's the most adhesive that we've seen so far. Let's see if CodyB is strong enough. Got it. So now that we've got all of our individual tubes like this, it's time to start turning them into single shots. Now, you could just light this fuse here, it's long enough, that'll give you about 3 seconds. But we want to bypass this time delay altogether by using an igniter. And before we do that, one thing I wanted to point out about these tubes is they come with a wooden plug. That is something extremely rare for a cardboard tube. I don't know if I'd reuse these for shells or not, but the fact that that's a wood plug on the bottom tells you a lot about the quality. That's really good. Usually it's like clay or even plastic. Now I've got so many of these 3-foot igniters that I just need to go through them. So we're going to be using these on these single shots, and because these are really only 1 shot, we don't have any real risk of the firework having to continue in a sense like it would on a cake. And because of that, we can get these things pretty stinking close to the module without having to worry about any damage being done to the module, since like I said, it's just 1 shot. Now that we've made that hole there, you can see there's another one about right here, but we're gonna stick the igniter in this one just so we don't have to worry about that fuse getting in the way. And I'll take the igniter, put it in there. Now with these shorter igniters, it does mean that you do have to be a bit closer to the module, but that's okay if your positions are strategically placed and you're only doing it with like single shots, because some of these big zipper cakes, you would never be able to fit it there using an igniter this small. But essentially, this is what our single shots are gonna look like when they're complete. This goes into the module, and we have just turned a 9-shot, 2.5-inch heartbreak cake into single shot form. So I just got all the heart-shaped shells. It's kind of a tongue twister with igniters in them. So 9 igniters in total, 9 singular shots. The only thing I guess I'm worried about is in the past, we have had some issues with MOABs, which are very similar to this tube size, but MOABs are a tad bit bigger. Sometimes they put the lift inside of this plastic cup that is beyond the cap on the bottom here, or I guess that would be the plug. But there's like a lift cap in there, and the issue with these igniters is they don't quite reach into that. Now, even though there should be some quick fuse beyond the hole that we poke to kind of jumpstart the ignition process, technically if that igniter does not get down into the lift, these aren't gonna go. So we're really, really hoping for good luck on all 9 of these. Also, one thing that's pretty interesting about these is you actually have to account for the pre-fire, otherwise known as the time that the shell takes to explode in the air. And what did you get for that, Garisson? Was it like 3 seconds?
About 3.5 seconds. I think I put in a 3-second time delay. One was 2.75 and one was 3.5. They were kind of inconsistent, so I went with 3 in the middle, hope for the best.
And basically what that means, or why that matters, is because if you wanted to do something like Comets underneath this, well, you don't want the Comets to go and then finish before this thing even goes off. You kind of want them to be synchronized, and to do that you have to account for that this is going to be in the air a lot longer than those Comets. So Garisson's doing a lot of walking back and forth between positions, and the reason for that is because he is trying to line up these Comet racks perfectly along with the zipper cakes and the fan slices. They need to be lined up like this because
this is all about symmetry on these shows.
Definitely getting a bit concerned about rain here. So we're using this roll of plastic, and this is what it looks like when it's on the position. So this is the only one that we have done, and we're gonna give it a bit of a chance because we are close to the right edge of that rain. So it's kind of split right there by the pine tree. And we're just hoping it moves gradually more that way and not more this way. But if it does, we are prepared. You know, I bet he's just one of the worst people to have in your town. He's over there making a racket with the hammer, pounding in the rebar, and then come nightfall, he's gonna make a bunch of noise in the sky. Unbelievable. He's got a loud car, loud pickup. This guy is all over the place. I think he needs to reevaluate his life a little bit. Well, we did not get lucky on the rain, that's for sure. It's really coming down now, as you can see. But we did get all 5 positions covered with this plastic, and now we just gotta hope it doesn't get so windy that it blows it right off, or it rains hard enough where it creates puddles and gets into the fireworks. But as you can see, it is coming down. Yep, this is definitely our luck. Unbelievable. But because it's us, still kind of believable. Well guys, the rain finally subsided. It went that way and actually cleared up, and now it's a beautiful evening. We just hope that definitely it doesn't happen again. And as you can see, all the plastic has now been removed, and we can start hooking stuff up to modules again. Yippee! There's all the plastic we took off.
You see that grassy area? That's where they have the car show during the county fair. And there's an old elevator, you can just see the top of it right there. So I wanted to set it up directly in line in that grassy spot, but being that close to an old elevator like that, it wasn't worth the risk of actually burning that down.
I agree. The only issue with this is people are starting to show up to the wedding, and we don't have very much cover here, as you can see. Now, from the highway and the approach into town, we do have this hill working in our favor. You can't see these fireworks, believe it or not, from that road. But the issue is if people are going to be parking here and it's already full, they're going to start lining up their vehicles right here. And then they're definitely going to see some of these fireworks. So we're still trying to keep this a surprise for the bride and groom, but it's a small town and people talk. We actually just went into town and grabbed a bite to eat, and people are already in the bar talking about fireworks tonight. So we'll see how far that rumor spreads and see if we can get away with this without anybody knowing. There's no fireworks tonight.
No.
No.
No. None.
What fireworks?
I don't know. These are just some little like poppets.
Well, these are actually all fake. These are, we're doing like a mock setup for a much larger show that we're doing next summer. This isn't actually real and loaded.
Yeah, and this would just be the opener for the show next summer.
Right.
If we did do one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for those of you who aren't aware, this is a 72M. Now you might be looking at this and going, wow, that's really tiny for a 72M, because usually, I'll insert a picture here, it's about this big. This is because there's no armored case on here, and you don't actually need the armored case to use the Cobra firing system if you didn't want to order that separately. So as you can see, we've got, we could potentially hook up 72 fireworks to this one module here, and that's exactly what we're doing right now.
So one thing I did want to say about the 72M, your 72Ms that you have, Cody, have the little spot to plug in a slat to. This one doesn't. That's another reason why it's so small.
So that takes up a little more space as well.
Yep, because they spread that out, and there's like one for 36 shots, one for 18 shots, I think. So that's kind of the difference why this one's a bit smaller. So one of the downsides to having these Comets already hooked up is they're kind of sporadically spread out, to where if I was hooking this up, you would hook them up in order. So channel 3 through 1 through 18 this way, and they don't get in the way. Now that some are already hooked up, now I got to fish this one through here,
through some of the wires.
Through some of the wires.
Yep.
That's the downside to doing this. Otherwise, it saves a lot of time. I think it's probably worth it right now, but...
Well, it's definitely worth it. You get to use up some of these igniters too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's no way we would have time to splice all of these in today on site.
So basically what's going to happen now is Garisson uses the Q labels, which I haven't used, but I'm definitely going to need to, because in our last show we did together, it would have been really nice to know exactly what firework is going to what station. So for future reference, this is definitely a really good idea right here, this little thing that says channel 3 Q13. And you guys will definitely be seeing more of that on the channel in the future. Also, I do want to get myself some CraigCo racks, because I would also like to start including some of these Comets like Garisson does in my own shows. So right now it's just a matter of hooking up the remaining 500 and 200 gram cakes, the fan slices, and some of the big MOABs to the modules. And I'm actually going to help Garisson out with this, so I will get back to you guys a little later. Quick update here, I just finished on the last position over there, and now everything is officially hooked up to the modules. And what Garisson's doing right now is checking for continuity. And basically all that is to make sure that we hooked everything up correctly to the Cobra. And if it's still red, which means there's no continuity, then that means we have to switch the wire because it's a bad igniter. We'll get you an example of what continuity looks like. And what we're looking for there is all green. And so you can see there's 6 green lit Qs on the remote right there. That means good continuity.
If we switch down to 9, you can see they're all red. That's just because I don't have that module on. And
right.
That's why. So this is module 10 and 4. Is what channels are on this module. So we're green, we're good.
Green all the way. And if you're wondering why we're doing this in broad daylight, it's because we'd rather get the continuity checks done now versus 5 minutes before we're supposed to shoot. Because if we do have to change an igniter, it's a lot less stressful to do it now than 5 minutes before go time. Additionally, this is something to look out for, guys. So when we're doing fan slices like this, so you have multiple things in a row, you want to be really careful that your igniter, for example, this is the first one to go with these 3 slices. So we want to make sure that the wire on the last one, which is here, is not overlapping a tube on the first one like that. If that's the case, when this lift comes out and breaks the shell, it can actually pull this igniter out altogether. And the problem with that is it'll still show continuity, but that item will not go off in the show. And I think maybe that's happened sometimes before in our shows in the past, and we just haven't really noticed it. And so that's just something to be mindful of. Make sure that you don't have any igniters overlapping a tube like that. It really wouldn't matter if that's your only shot on that cue, because then even if it does rip the igniter, the firework's still going to go because it was already initiated. But we're talking about when the igniter overlaps one that goes before it. So for example, this row will fire before this row naturally, but if this igniter is here, there's a good chance that when the lift comes out of that, it will blow the igniter right out of the bottom of the firework, and you just straight up will not have that part go off in your show. And this is exactly what I was worried about earlier. As you can see, people are starting to fill up here. The reception for the wedding is taking place in that building, and people are just parking everywhere. So I would imagine at the end of the night, right before we shoot, these cars are lined up all the way over here, and this fireworks show is supposed to be a surprise. So we're gonna have to get creative with where we are parking the vehicles to kind of block the view of these fireworks. Well guys, the continuity checks are complete. Everything is green lit, which means we are ready to go finally. So I think we're gonna go have some fun there at the reception, and we will see you guys at shoot time. Car alarms are already going off, and we haven't even started yet. Who knew Garisson and I could be so spiffy? Did anybody guess? Look at these shoes. Look at this. We're really doing it out here.
It's probably the only time anyone will ever get to see me like this on YouTube too.
All right, guys. Well, we are about 2 minutes away from shoot time here. As you can see, we got one GoPro in ultra wide, and we have another camera angle right here, and I'm gonna be holding this one. All right, Garisson, you ready?
Let's go.
Go for it. Oh, there's a heart. A loud start. That's cool. That's got to be Extreme Machine.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Chaos Theory?
Yep.
Whoa. That's loud. Jeez. Oh, that's nice. That is a really bright blue. Really good timing. Wow. That's nice. Oh my god! Oh my god. Woo! Well, we hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah, I liked it.
That was a lot of fun.
It was.
All right, guys, so the show is done and over with, and I would say the show was really awesome. What would you say?
I liked it. I loved how it turned out.
I love the Comets. I feel like they were way louder coming out of a canister shell tube. One thing I did want to talk about. We had 4 hearts, and I'm sure you guys could see this during the display, that did not go off. And this goes back to the comment I made earlier about MOABs being hard to poke. And we actually had a couple in tonight's show that didn't go off in previous displays.
Yep. 3 of the MOABs that were in this display did not go off because, and I credit it to the fact that they put a little plastic shroud here, or plastic or cardboard, and then it's the shell and then another cardboard shroud that you can see if you look down the tube, right? And I think sometimes, even if you poke it right where the fuse is, I think the fuse goes in over top and then down into the lift charge. So if you poke it right where the fuse is, you miss the lift charge. And I'm assuming that is what happened with these 4.
Yep. Now, obviously, I'm pretty disappointed in this because this is like the one thing that I set up today. I poked them all myself, and this is exactly how I poke all the MOABs. This is a bit discouraging because obviously this was a wedding show, but somehow we're going to have to get past that. You know, we did have 5 of the hearts go off. I'm just really not sure why these 4 decided not to go. We had continuity. I feel like this is more of a manufacturer error where they're not allowing you to physically poke these with an igniter and still get the same effect as you would a normal single shot that is designed to shoot a hard effect up in the air.
Yep. But I would say everything else in the show went. Every single thing else.
It
so
did.
This is a win if you only had 4 things that didn't go.
Right.
And I think it was a beautiful show still. Especially for the budget.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this wasn't a huge budget show and it was only 3 minutes. So I feel like it was a beautiful show for the budget and for what we did. Just have to be the 4 pieces that I want to see the most.
I know, and usually this is no big deal, right? Because sometimes we do have 500 gram and 200 gram cakes that don't go, and that has a lot to do with how you poke the igniter in there. But these ones here, it's a little discouraging because, again, this is a wedding show. We got to have hearts, and 4 of them did not go off. But either way, it was an awesome show. Outstanding job on the timing, by the way.
Thank you.
This is
Appreciate
really
that.
good timing.
Thank you.
And so those Comets, they look really good. I love how they sound coming out of the canister shell guns, and we'll see you guys in the next one. I tell you guys what, just having these things not go off, especially for a wedding show, my God.
Dude, it's actually kind of heartbreaking.